Two police cruisers sat in my driveway, red and blue lights bouncing off every window. Neighbors peeked out like prairie dogs waiting to see blood. And then right there in front of everyone, the officer froze, mid-stride, snapped to attention, and said 5 words that made the HOA president's face drain of color. "Yes, General. How can I help?" Act 1. The Spark of Conflict. My name's Rex Hartwell. 28 years in the Army, retired a brigadier general, thought I'd finally earned some peace. My wife Melody and I moved into Willowbrook Estates for the suburban dream lawns, trimmed like golf courses, sprinklers ticking at dawn, kids on bikes. After decades of deployments and bases, we thought we'd found paradise. But paradise always hides a snake. Ours was Brenda Kensington, the queen bee of the HOA. Think yoga pants that cost more than car payments, a Lexus parked like she owned the whole street, and that haircut you just know came with a glass of Chardonnay. She lived to make rules and break people. Trouble started with my vegetable garden. Nothing wild, just tomatoes, peppers, some basil. After years of command briefings and paperwork, getting my hands in soil felt like freedom. Melody joked I was finally growing something besides gray hair. Then Brenda marched into my yard, heels clacking like a drill sergeant. "This is unacceptable," she snapped. "Agricultural displays violate Section 12.3.7 of our standards. 10 days to remove it plus a $500 compliance fee." I'd read the HOA handbook cover to cover. No such section existed. But Brenda didn't care about facts. She shoved papers in my face and stormed off like she'd just won a trial. That night I sat at the kitchen table at 2 in the morning, cold coffee in my hand, HOA documents spread out like battle plans. Melody joined me quietly. "She's done this before, hasn't she?" she asked. I nodded. 3 other families had been hit fees for parking a work van, holiday decorations, even a kid practicing drums. All working class, all people who'd rather pay up than fight. It was a shakedown, plain and simple, and we were the next target. Act 2. Escalation and doubt. Brenda doubled down. Certified mail fancy letterheads, threats of liens and attorneys. She even invented something called the Architectural Review Committee, and surprise made herself chairwoman. Every letter demanded $500 more. The stress gnawed at me. I found myself pacing at night, wondering if she really could slap a lien on our house if our so-called dream home would end up in foreclosure because of a few tomatoes. Then came the night my garden was destroyed. I woke up to find every plant hacked down, soil scattered like a crime scene. Even my security cameras had been spray-painted black. The air reeked of crushed vines. 28 years in the Army, and I'd never felt violation this personal. I stood there with a coffee mug in hand, feeling like a fool. That was my breaking point. I thought about paying her off, swallowing the humiliation just to keep peace. I actually whispered to myself, maybe this isn't worth it. Maybe I'm the problem. But Melody touched my shoulder and said softly, "Bullies don't stop when you give in. They stop when someone stands up." Turns out my decoy cameras caught what the spray paint didn't. On my hidden feed, Brenda's teenage son crept across the yard with shears. Minutes later, Brenda herself showed up, directing him to stomp on the remains. I had them. Cold. And digging deeper, I discovered something bigger. Willowbrook Estates HOA had legally dissolved 3 years earlier. Brenda was running a ghost association, collecting thousands in fake fees to fund her own debts. She owed $47,000 on credit cards, her mortgage was 3 months behind, and she'd siphoned nearly $24,000 straight from families like mine. The Truth Squad was born in my living room, 6 families at first, then more, armed with receipts, recordings, and righteous anger. Act 3. Showdown and Justice. Brenda panicked. She called a community meeting, hired security guards, and strutted around like a dictator in designer yoga pants. She even dialed 911, screaming that I was a dangerous veteran threatening her. When the patrol car arrived, fate handed me Lieutenant Martinez, my former officer from Afghanistan. Brenda launched into hysterics, waving her arms, accusing me of terrorism. Martinez turned calm as stone and asked, "Sir, your account." I stood tall, hands visible. These people tried to ban me from a public meeting without legal authority. No threats, no aggression. Mrs. Olivia, our 80-year-old neighbor watering flowers nearby, saw everything. Martinez glanced at her. She nodded vigorously. The lady screamed. The man was polite. Brenda's story collapsed under his questions. Timelines changed, details vanished, and desperation leaked from every word. Finally, Martinez said flatly, "Ma'am, filing false police reports is a crime. Are you sure you want to continue?" Her face went white. Even her hired guards backed away. By the time the HOA meeting started, the community center was packed. 40 neighbors, a Channel 7 news crew, even residents from nearby developments curious about the drama. I took the podium, military bearing steady, and clicked the first slide Melody had prepared. Willowbrook Estates, HOA, legal charter, dissolved 2021. Gasps rippled through the room. I presented the evidence: embezzlement, missing audits, fake committees, nearly $24,000 stolen. Families stood up one by one. Mike Johnson, Navy vet, fined for his work van. Maria Garcia charged for cultural holiday decorations. The Patels punished because their son practiced drums. Each voice piled weight on Brenda's crumbling authority. Then Martinez walked back in with his partner. He stopped 3 feet from me, snapped to perfect attention, and said loud enough for every camera to hear, "Yes, General. How can I assist you today, sir?" The crowd erupted in a collective gasp. Brenda shrieked, "I don't care if he's a general. Arrest him." Martinez turned slowly, his patience gone. "Ma'am, you are under arrest for embezzlement, filing false police reports, and fraud." The click of the cuffs echoed like a gavel striking. The room exploded, neighbors clapping, some crying kids wide-eyed at the sight of the queen of the cul-de-sac led out in disgrace. I didn't cheer. I just stood there, steady, knowing the fight was over. A final note. That's how our HOA tyrant fell, brought down, not by yelling, not by paying, but by patience, truth, and a neighborhood finally standing together.